What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living in Accra, Ghana. And if you want to know what I think about what's going on in the news, LeBron being a billionaire, Brittney Griner still being in jail, and the petition, and then what happened last Friday or last Monday with me trying to get out of Sierra Leone and back to Ghana, then this is definitely the video for you. All right. We are live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook, and we are live on Instagram. It has been an eventful last week or so, to say the very least. So we're going to get into the situation I ran into last week trying to get back to Ghana. As you guys know, my travel over the last 2 months has been interesting, to say the least. Sometimes I've described it as disastrous. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Talk about my travel that's coming up. I'm going to be in Europe and back in the States coming up really soon. And then we're going to get into the topic of discussion today. So today we're going to talk about two professional athletes in the sport of basketball, and two completely different stories, and how the implications of one, or the one thing has implications on the other, and the arguments that are happening around them. And so we're going to talk about LeBron, of course, and then we're going to talk about Brittney Griner. But before we get there, let me update you guys all on the last week while we're working for everybody, waiting on everybody to get on. So I see a couple people joining. What's up? Let me know first of all, let me know that you can hear me. I see Helen Brown says, how am I doing? What's up, Helen? Can you guys hear me? What's up, Manelik? I see you. Manelik says, what's up? Hope all is good. Last City says, hello, nice meeting you. Nice meeting you as well. Shout out to you. Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up on Instagram. Give me a thumbs up on YouTube if you can hear me. I just want to know that you guys can hear me. Also, if you're watching on Instagram and you want to see what I'm going to be sharing on my screen, I am pinning the link to the YouTube channel right now. So just click on that pin link, and you'll be able to join the YouTube live to watch it live. If I can pin it. Okay, there we go. It's pinned. So if you're watching on Instagram live, you can join the YouTube live. The link is there. Okay, Manelik says you can hear me. Cool. So we're going to start with just a little bit of housekeeping first and foremost. If you guys don't know, I now have a TikTok channel. I had one previously, but the person who set it up for me forgot the username, password, and all that kind of stuff. So I have a new one. It's authentic__African. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, I'm on TikTok now. Finally, I have joined the kids and I'm on TikTok. But basically what I'm doing is taking clips from different various videos that people found interesting, putting them up on TikTok, but then also sharing other relevant content that you might find interesting. So I'm doing more of that. I'm doing YouTube Shorts now. So if you're watching YouTube and my YouTube channel and you might have missed some of the earlier videos, some of the more impactful ones that have a lot of views that people found interesting, but you may not have seen yet, I'm taking clips from some of those videos and making them YouTube Shorts. I'll be doing some original content for YouTube Shorts. I'll be doing some original content for TikTok as well, but that's going to take some time. So right now, that's the situation. Mr. Bounce Los Angeles, shout out to you for joining. Easy Money Bo, what's up? Chester Glenn, what's going on? Mr. Bounce Los Angeles says South Central LA is in the building. Speaking of LA, I'll be in Los Angeles the first week of June. Sorry, the first week of July. This is the first week of June. So the first week of July, I'll be in LA for a wedding. Then I have to go down to Orange County at the end of that week. So we're going to see what we can do to try to do some kind of event for the Los Angeles folks so we can all get together. I'm also going to be in the New York area. And so I'm going to try to get an event going in New York to get all of the New Yorkers together. And then, of course, I'm in London next week. So myself and Mariama Forbes, I want to see if her and I can put together an event. So if you guys are around and you guys want to join, I'll let you know. This time next week, I will be in London, UK. So for those of you who want to meet up with us, I'm going to work with her to see if we can figure out what we can do while we're there. I think it could be interesting to get you guys together and meet some of you. So, so yeah, I'm going to do in every major city that I'm going to try to do something. I'm also going to be in DC. Don't know how many subscribers are in DC. It seems like most are in the Midwest and the East, New York and LA, but I'll be able to meet up with you guys as well. So, so that's the travel over the next month and a half. So I'm going to be out of the continent of Africa for the first time since November 3rd, 2020. If you can imagine, I have been in Africa since November 3rd, 2020. So I'm going to be, yes, I'm going to be there for about 7 weeks, and I'll be outside of the continent. So I'll be in England for a week from the 10th through about the 14th or 15th. And then I'll be in Cannes, France, from the 18th, sorry. The 10th to the 18th in London. And then from the 19th through the 26th or so, I'll be in Cannes, France. And then from there, I fly to New York, be in New York for a week, then in LA for about a week, week and a half, and then back to New York for the whole rest of July. So for about 7 weeks, I'm going to be outside of the continent of Africa. First time since I moved here in November 2020. So so that's a little bit of the housekeeping. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being in London. I see that Samara joined. Samara and I got to catch up when I'm there too. But yeah, so I'll be in London in a week. So for those of you who are there, let me know, reach out to me, let me know. I'd like to pull together a group of people so we can meet in person. Over the last couple of weeks, I met Spear Warrior or Gerald at Mom's Bar or Mom's Bar and Lounge in Freetown. So that was cool. I want to do more of that. I've been running into a lot of the subscribers in Sierra Leone specifically because Sierra Leone is so small, such a small community, and like so few events. So every time I went to an event, I'd meet one of the subscribers or somebody who's seen one of my videos. So that was cool. I want to do more of that. So yeah, so let me tell you about trying to get out of Sierra Leone. This was a challenge. So I know all the Nigerian followers and subscribers feel like all I do is talk about my bad experiences in Nigeria. But let me tell you something. If I experience something that doesn't work out, I definitely mention it. And I did have an extreme experience in Sierra Leone. So where do we begin? So I was planning to leave on last Sunday, from Sierra Leone to come back to Ghana. That was the goal. I went to Bo first because basically the way the geography of Sierra Leone is set up, the airport is on a peninsula called Lunge. Freetown is here. Bo is somewhere here, right? So basically it's the same distance to drive from Freetown to the airport, maybe a little longer than to go from Bo to the airport. And so I thought, why don't I go to Bo? We have a second house that is being built there. I have extended family. The paternal side of my family is there in Bo. You know, my grandfather was chief. Just get a little bit more information about my family history, all of that. So I went to Bo expecting to be able to leave from Bo and go directly to the airport. Now, I hadn't bought my ticket before I went to Bo because I was going to buy my ticket on Saturday because the prices weren't fluctuating. It was the same price Friday and Saturday. When I got to Bo, unfortunately, QCell, the company, one of the companies that are based in Sierra Leone for internet, this company, QCell, here's my MiFi, if you guys can see it. This company, it was not working in Bo, in the entire city of Bo, right? Just down. So I couldn't get on the internet, which meant I couldn't book my ticket, which meant I had to book or change my plans to travel out on Wednesday. So I decided, okay, Monday is a holiday in the United States. I can use that day to travel back to Freetown, get some work done and be able to plan for my trip on Wednesday. And I had plenty of time to do it. So So the first issue was the internet. Not to mention the hotel room that I stayed in. The hotel had a fire, which is the craziest thing ever. It had a fire like up in flames. Not the whole hotel, but the floor that my room was on. So they had to move us to another room. It was crazy. The whole thing was wild. So anyway, that's not even the worst of it, right? So, whatever, dealing with the internet issues, not a big deal. First world problems, right? I'll just deal with it. I'll move on. Even though I had work to do, like for instance, making sure that I plan my live, all the things that I normally do before I go live, plan my live, get videos up on YouTube, all that kind of stuff that I do, and my day job and all the other consulting work that I do. So that couldn't be done for Saturday and Sunday. And if you know me, and if I don't have access to the internet, it drives me crazy because I'm always on the internet doing something work related because I try to be as productive as possible in my free time. And so, I've been sitting around a lot doing a lot of nothing, which is really hard for me to do. So anyway, it is what it is, right? Like I said, it's a first world problem, no big deal. It is what it is. 2 days without the internet, I'll live. So Monday at 12, about a reasonable time, we thought, let's eat some food, wake up a little bit late. It's a holiday in the States, so I don't have to do like my day job. I have some other calls that I have to do, but I'll be able to get on those calls and I'll be able to go live when I get to Freetown later that evening. So at about 12 noon, we set off to drive to Freetown, expected to get to Freetown by about 3:30, 4. And on the way to Freetown, we pass the Bow, what is it called? The Bow checkpoint, right? And we're about 35 to 40 minutes past the Bow checkpoint. And my driver had to pee. And, when in Rome, so peed outside, right? He's peeing outside behind the car, whatever. That's normal. People do that, as long as you just don't face the street, you face out into the wooded area, right? You're all good. So he gets out to pee. He gets back in the car and he goes to start the car and it's like making all these noises, right? But it's not turning on, right? So the car's not turning on. And I'm thinking to myself, not again. It's like deja vu because this happened to me in 2019 on my way to the airport. And I had to jump on the back of a bike with 2 big suitcases on the back of me. We had to like tie it around the bike. We had them behind me and I'm on a bike for about an hour because it broke down like closer to the airport. This broke down closer to Bow. Thank goodness, because we had to figure out what we were going to do. So my driver had all these ideas. Well, let me get on a bike and go back to Bow and then bring an electrician here. I'm like, no, that's not going to work. And then he's trying to work on it. That's not working. So he pulls out the starter, which is a piece of machinery. You can see that it's all messed up. Everything is messed up about it. So what he does is we decide that I'm going to take my laptop with me, my charger, my laptop, everything, and go back to Bow with him so that I can try to be as productive as I can be until it's time to leave. Hopefully it only takes about 2 hours to fix so that I'll be back in Freetown with plenty of time to go live Monday night. Because again, this is Monday afternoon. I go live at 9 p.m. GMT. At this point in time, it's about 1 p.m. We go back to the house in Bow. It's about 2 p.m. by that time. And now it's just a waiting game. Again, I don't have the internet, so I could not go live. The only thing that I could do was my phone had spotty internet. So I was able to post a post on YouTube, right, to say that I can't go live today for the first time in 53 weeks. I had been going live 53 weeks straight. This is the first time I did not go live. And it pains me to say that the streak got ended by poor planning and a vehicle that just is subpar. So anyway, we decide that at that point in time, we're still going to leave to go to Freetown no matter what time the vehicle gets fixed. So my driver goes to a shop, works with an electrician, cleans it, can't fix the starter, can't fix it. So what he does is he takes a starter out of another vehicle, takes that starter and puts it in my vehicle, and then we need to pay to replace that starter because those parts aren't available in Bow. And so we did all that, put it in the car. He finally came back to pick me, but by that time it was already 10:30. So when I was supposed to go live, we were already an hour and a half after. And by the way, I still don't have access to internet, right? So we leave at about 11:30. So he got a chance to eat first. We left at about 11:30. We drive. We do not get to Freetown until 3:30 in the morning. My driver was so tired, we had to keep stopping so we could take like little rest breaks and stuff like that, because I did not want him falling asleep while driving. So so we stopped a bunch of times. We finally get to Freetown at like 3:30, 4 a.m. And of course, I had to be up for work for Tuesday morning. I usually get up around 6 or 7. So I had like 2-3 hours of sleep. So that was the experience. Not to mention the day I was supposed to leave. So I had some issues using my card once again, and my card wasn't working. So I wasn't able to purchase my ticket. Even after all of that. So I had to keep moving my flight. And because you have to get a COVID test to leave Sierra Leone, I had to schedule the COVID test and I had to do a rush test. So that's like $100 to get the rush test done and all of that. So anyway, did all that, ended up leaving on Thursday. Now, I was under the impression that the boat that goes across the water leaves 3 hours before the flight, because it takes about 45 minutes to get across, another 15 minutes to get to the airport. You get 2 hours before you go in, but it actually leaves 4 hours before your flight. So unfortunately, I showed up to the sea coach at about 35 to 40 minutes after I was supposed to show up. There's some other things that happened in between. Somebody left something at the place that I was staying, so I had to go back to try to find it. It wasn't even there. All of that, it was just not good. It was not good. And so when that happened, I missed my flight. I didn't miss my flight. Sorry, I missed the boat to get to the flight. So in the end, I had to charter a boat. Now, I was given 4 prices to charter the boat. One company said, okay, we have the big boat for $500. I'm like, I don't need the big boat. Right? It's just me. Also, I'm not paying the same amount for a boat for 45 minutes as the flight to go from one country to another. So it's a no-go on the 500. Okay, the smaller boat is $350. Yes. Oh, no, so 300. So I said, yeah, so no, I'm not paying 300 for the smaller boat either. So that was a no. Call up another company. They're like, we got a boat for $350. I was like, that's still a little expensive. I don't want to pay $350 for a 45-minute boat ride. Went to another company, Aberdeen Water Taxi, which I recommend you all use. And I had a whole video about this that I'll be putting out in a week or so. But the Aberdeen Water Taxi is the one Sierra Leone owned boat company that takes you back and forth from Lunge to Freetown. So anybody who's not familiar and who's planning to go to Sierra Leone, the next time you go, take Aberdeen Water Taxi. And if you're in Sierra Leone right now and you're planning to leave, that's a company that I recommend. Free promotion, because they are the one Sierra Leone company. The other ones are owned by, one's Nigerian and Lebanese. The other one is, I think, Chinese. But either way, they're not Sierra Leonean. So I recommend you use Aberdeen Water Taxi. Anyway, same services. They're all good. Everything's still the same. Nothing different. But I had to charter a boat from Aberdeen Water Taxi. They did it for 3 million leones, which is about $280. So I got a little bit of a discount over the other 2 companies that were offering me to charter their boats. And then I finally got on a flight and I came back. So that was the wild time that I had getting here. So Kevin Briggs says, laughing my ass off, shaking my head. Yeah, it was one of those. Manelik says, sounds like you need an assistant. I do need an assistant. I have social media managers, but I do need an assistant. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot. I need an assistant because I have so many different businesses and so many different things going on. Ideally, I would want to have someone book my flights, make sure they look up all transportation, handle all of that stuff for me so that I can just focus on the businesses, right? Right now I'm getting to a point where it's a little bit crazy. And so I don't always have the mental capacity to try to think through the logistics of things. And it's the first time in my life where I'm feeling like I have so many things going on that I actually do need someone to help me kind of focus on this. So I'm putting it out to the group. I'd love to have an assistant. I know, Manelik, you and I need to talk about some things. And this is another reason why we haven't spoken, because I've just been really swamped. I need someone to answer my emails. The Authentic African email address needs email answers. I need someone to help me with the live, right? There's so many things going on with live at the same time. I need somebody to help me with that. So I just need help all around with my business. And I definitely would like to have some help there for sure. So anybody who can offer any help, I'm be open to it. Right now, I might need a kind of an intern, unpaid intern, ideally, because the funds right now are all going to many different places. And if I did pay, it would have to be kind of like a small stipend. But if anybody's interested, reach out to me on DM or my email, and we can definitely talk about it. Okay. Sorry. Taking vitamin C because I am trying to prevent illness. So yeah, all right, cool. So cool. So that's that. Kevin Briggs says a dinghy. What, a dinghy? Like to float across the water? I don't get it. What do you mean, Kevin? I'm interested to hear what he means by a dinghy. All right, cool. So that was what happened last week. So all of you who are wondering why I didn't go live last week, I mean, it's like I said, first time in 53 weeks I didn't go live. That was the situation. So any questions on that? Any thoughts? Any, yeah, whatever. Anybody have anything to add there? If you do, feel free. All right, cool. So let's get into this week's topic. So first things first, LeBron James officially became a billionaire. And why am I talking about this? Why does it matter? Well, first of all, it's a black man who's now hit the billionaire mark. I am not necessarily a person, I used to, but I'm not a person today who is like in awe of billionaires the way I used to be. I'm also not with the idea of going to war with billionaires and saying that there shouldn't be billionaires, because I think it depends on how you make your money, right? If you have a negative impact on the world and on workers to make your money, then I don't agree that you should be a billionaire, especially if you're evading taxes, right? And things like that. However, from what I understand, LeBron has done it all the right way, right? It's been mostly his investments. And so what I want to do is kind of just dig into this a little bit. For those who aren't really familiar with, you know, LeBron and who he is the first ever American professional athlete. I don't know if this has happened for any other professional athlete outside of the United States, but he's the first ever American professional athlete. So think about all the professional athletes throughout time: Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Wayne Gretzky, going all the way back to like the 80s and 90s. I can go back further, but you know, these are like, some people consider the golden eras of certain sports, right? And then you have other players like Kobe Bryant and others who have come in the later years. And LeBron is the first and only American athlete to become a billionaire while currently participating in the sport that he played. Jordan became a billionaire 10 years after he retired from basketball, right? All right, so let's play that video really quickly so you guys can see what they're saying as to how he made his billion. So this is Forbes. Forbes has now calculated LeBron's net worth to be over $1 billion. So let's go ahead and share what he has done. All right, so let's get into it. So this is the Forbes video on LeBron's reaching $1 billion.
LeBron James has hit yet another milestone, this time doing something no other NBA player has ever done. After another monster year of earnings, totaling $121.2 million last year, Forbes estimates that James has officially become a billionaire. The 37-year-old superstar has a net worth of $1 billion by Forbes' count. James, who's missing the playoffs for just the fourth time in 19 seasons, is the first active NBA player to make the billionaires list. Michael Jordan, the only other basketball billionaire, didn't hit 10 figures until 2014, more than a decade after he retired, thanks to a well-timed investment in the Charlotte Hornets basketball team. James has maximized his business with more.
All right, really quickly, just for copyright concerns and copyright claims, so Forbes doesn't come after me for playing the video. A couple things to keep in mind. LeBron is 37. Yeah, he's 37. He'll be 38 later this year. I am 6 months older than LeBron. I'm 6 months older than LeBron is, and it's interesting to see what he's been able to accomplish in this time. I've been following his career since high school. So one thing I will say is back in 2014, he did say that he wants to be a billionaire while still playing. And so he's been able to achieve that goal, which I think is really amazing considering how difficult it is to do. And so a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is his team. So his team is made up of his core team, and then he has a broader team of other folks that he works with, right? But Rich Paul is a guy who used to sell jerseys when he was in his late teens, early 20s that he met. This guy was a hustler, really, really serious business-minded person, was selling like throwback jerseys. If you remember 2003, 2004, I might be aging myself a little bit. Some of you might be a little younger at that time. Maybe you didn't know, but throwback jerseys were a thing, right? He was selling throwback jerseys at that time. LeBron and him met. They got really cool, and he became a part of LeBron's agent. He became LeBron's agent. Now, Rich Paul has one of the best agencies in the NBA, Clutch Sports. So one of LeBron's good friends from in his early 20s has a whole business by himself where LeBron is a client of Clutch Sports, but so is a bunch of other people, including Anthony Davis, I think Draymond Green, a bunch of other players who are in the Clutch Sports, okay? Then you have Maverick Carter. So Maverick Carter is someone who works on other businesses and other business ventures. So he does like a lot of the movie stuff and some of the other things. And he has a team of many more people, but they're all in the right place. And so it's been good because him as an athlete and being the face of the NBA and being easy to endorse and all of that was one element to him being able to generate this kind of wealth, but it was also putting the right kind of people around him and keeping his day one people around him, people that he can trust. Maverick Carter is someone he actually played basketball with in high school. Maverick graduated, I think, 2 years before LeBron did, went to college, did an internship at Nike, and it was while he was at Nike, he gave LeBron his first, it was like $96 million deal before LeBron ever even played an NBA game. So this is where LeBron is like a trailblazer, even in the sports world, right? I think that same year, Kobe had come over from Adidas to Nike, or that next year, and they offered Kobe like 70 million or less than what they offered LeBron. And LeBron hadn't even played an NBA game. Kobe had already been an NBA champion by that point, or close to it at least. And so, from the beginning, LeBron has always had a team of really good people, which is really why it's important to have a team, right? You can't do it yourself. I mean, he's the face of everything, but he is not actually the person who is handling everything. He's involved. He says yes or no to different things, but he has the right team around him. So that's really important. I just thought it was interesting. I'm not going to play that whole video because the video is like almost 4 minutes long, but you get the idea. One of the things that I will mention that he did, it was really smart, was he had this big deal with McDonald's. I don't know if you guys remember, which to me didn't make any sense. Athletes doing deals with Sprite and with McDonald's never made any sense to me, except it just makes them money. But like, who's really drinking? You think LeBron is really drinking Sprite when he's out on a basketball court, right? Like, who drinks soda when they're on a basketball court, right? It doesn't make any sense. Also, is he really eating McDonald's? No, he's not eating McDonald's. Maybe once in a while, but he's not eating McDonald's. The other thing is he put in his contract that he'll never actually eat the McDonald's in the commercial. And they still backed up the Brinks truck for him and gave him a big deal to do this McDonald's deal. I don't remember the amount of money, but he took this McDonald's deal because he doesn't actually eat McDonald's, now that I remember. So he wasn't going to actually eat McDonald's in the commercial. So that was part of the stipulation for his deal. However, he left that deal behind to get ownership in a small company at the time called Blaze Pizza. And so he invested in Blaze Pizza. I don't remember what the amount was, but that investment turned around to give him hundreds of millions of dollars in that one investment, because Blaze Pizza went on to, if I can't remember, I think they went public or they got purchased. Whatever happened, they had an exit, and he generated a significant amount of cash at that time. And so that all added to his net worth. Not to mention, he has a production company that's produced the Space Jam 2 movie, which I hear was not a good movie, but it was still a big box office success. He also produced a show called Survivor's Remorse about a basketball player and his life being a basketball player that was on Showtime. And he's produced so many other things, films and TV shows as well. And so all of that, right, and amongst all of his other investments, these are all reasons why he's hit that billionaire status. So I think for me, I think that's what's probably most impressive is just how he's had the right team. He's made the right decisions, and he's been able to do this while still being an active player in the NBA, averaging over 30 points a game, which nobody his age has ever done in the history of the NBA for an entire season, believe it or not. And the NBA has been around, I don't know, 70 years, whatever the number of years it's been. So, so anyway, you know, this is not an excuse to just talk about LeBron, since, you know, some of my trolls on YouTube like to get at me about LeBron. But, you know, I just thought it was important to talk about this story because it's a big deal. This is a Black professional athlete in America hitting billionaire status. So again, I don't believe in like the class warfare. I mean, some of my favorite politicians unfortunately do, and I think that's a problem. Like, I don't think we should villainize all billionaires. I think if you've done it through making smart investments and you are doing the right thing, giving back, like LeBron is somebody who's doing this image here that you see on the screen is actually from him when he was doing the I Promise School opening, right? Which he's giving scholarships to everyone to go to college in Cleveland. I think it's University of Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. He's paying for the college tuition, and there was some other things that he's doing for these students to really help them be able to get the opportunities that people like him don't normally get coming from where he came from. And so to me, I think it's a noble thing to do. And, you know, he's doing the right thing with his funds. So, yeah, so that's LeBron. That's the billionaire status. Let me see if there's anything else in here that I missed. Let's see what else Forbes says really quickly. See if there's anything I missed.
More than $1.2 billion in pre-tax earnings. He has commanded more than $385 million in salary from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Miami Heat, and Los Angeles Lakers as the NBA's highest paid active player. Off the court, he has raked in upwards of $900 million in income from endorsements and other business ventures. Born in Akron, Ohio, James lived with an assortment of family members, moving a dozen times in 3 years. He inked his first deal with Nike in 2003 at age 18, famously rejecting offers from Reebok and Adidas in favor of what he saw as the better long-term partner. After more than a decade of success, he struck a lifetime agreement with Nike in late 2015 that pays him tens of millions annually. Last year, thanks to Nike, plus deals with brands like AT&T, PepsiCo, and Walmart, he was the second highest earning athlete in the world. But the real key to James's billion-dollar fortune, he's been more than just a pitchman. James has long structured deals to give him equity in brands he partners with, giving him a cut of the upside instead of a quick paycheck.
Yeah, so this is important. So they're going to talk about McDonald's versus Blaze Pizza, but let me take a step back. So the deal he did with Nike is important for a couple of reasons, right? Number one, the first deal was like $96 million. And then he did another deal they just mentioned in like 2015, which is a lifetime deal. So they just pay him just tens of millions of dollars per year, every year. But the other thing that I'll mention too is that what he did differently that somebody like Magic didn't is that Magic famously turned down a deal from Nike before Nike was Nike in the 80s. I can't remember what year it was. Phil Knight, the CEO of Nike, came to Magic and was like, we're going to give you a percentage of our company. So you'll get a percentage of our income in perpetuity if you take a percentage deal. And because at the time, I think Larry Bird had like an $90,000 a year, can you imagine? $90,000 a year deal with Converse. Magic went to Converse it was $70,000 a year deal with Converse. Magic went to Converse and got an $88,000 a year deal with Converse instead of getting a piece of Nike, which would have given him $1 billion. He would have been worth, just from that Nike deal, over $1 billion. Magic's not a billionaire yet, even though he has a prolific business resume. He hasn't reached that status yet. And that's something that LeBron learned early on, is to take a piece of a company instead of just be a face of a company for endorsements. And this is important because this is the idea of investing and ownership in businesses. So as you guys know, that's what I want to do here on the continent. And that's what I encourage everyone to do, is to get into investing. Don't spend money on jewelry. Don't spend money on expensive cars, you know, unless they can resell, they have resale value, but only, I think, assets over liabilities. And if you can invest in a business, I would definitely recommend it. So let's hear what the deal was with McDonald's versus Blaze, because they're going to get into that now.
In 2015, James walked away from an endorsement agreement with McDonald's, worth an estimated $15 million over 4 years, to instead gamble on the fast-growing Blaze Pizza chain, where he's an investor. He's taken equity in brands like smart gym maker Tonal and rideshare giant Lyft as well. Then there's Spring Hill, the TV and movie production outfit built by James.
And that's Maverick Carter there. So Spring Hill, the Spring Hill company, this is the production company I was talking about. That's Maverick, who basically runs that business. So if you guys ever seen clips from The Shop, Maverick's the guy who was always in The Shop, the barber shop, right? That's one of the shows that they also produce under Spring Hill. All right, cool.
James and business partner Maverick Carter. Last October, outside investors bought into the venture, which helped produce the $163 million Space Jam: A New Legacy and HBO documentary What's My Name, Muhammad Ali, at a $725 million valuation. James, of course, remains the biggest shareholder. James has publicly dreamed about one day owning an NBA team, and he's well on his way. The basketball star already counts pro baseball, soccer, and hockey teams among his holdings. But his fortune wouldn't be complete without his real estate holdings. He owns at least 3 properties worth about $80 million in all. He built a $10 million mansion near his hometown of Akron, Ohio, and he bought an 8-bedroom property in LA for $23 million. His latest splurge? A 13,000 square foot Beverly Hills mansion. James paid $36.75 million for the home, which he has already torn down to replace with a mansion of his own.
All right, so you got the idea. The guy has many, many investments. It's very clear. So that is why he is in the realm of billionaire. So just so you guys know, that really answers the question as to how he's gotten there. I think a lot of people have questions, and I had questions too. I didn't think about some of the other investments, Lyft and others, which is huge. I mean, some of those equaling over $300 million worth of investments. So that is a big deal, to say the least. So that is the LeBron James story and where he's at and what he's doing. I think next we'll talk about what's going on with Brittney Griner. I know that this conversation has been one that we had back in March when I had Kenya and Masa on. We talked about this briefly, how Brittney was detained in the Russian airport for having what they say is a vaporizer cartridge in her carry-on luggage, right? So, or I guess in her luggage, period. So it was supposed to be a vaporizer cartridge. So Brittney Griner is a WNBA star. She played college basketball. So she played college basketball at Baylor University. She played for Team USA, won a gold medal with Team USA basketball, and she also now plays for the Phoenix Mercury, if I'm not mistaken. So she's a WNBA star. She's one of the few females in the world that can dunk and has been dunking since college, right? So that's kind of a thing. I remember before her, it was like Michelle Snow. I think Lisa Leslie dunked once. You know, that to me, I think is was really interesting. So Brittney Griner. And so why is this story important? One of the things that, and we're gonna look at this Angela Rye interview. So Angela Rye is a former politician. She was in the Congressional Black Caucus. She worked somehow in there. I'm not really sure, but she's a lawyer by trade. She also does a lot of commentary for CNN, and she's just all around activist. she interviewed Brittney Griner's wife to talk about what the situation was for Brittney Griner and what the situation was. And so on this, she came on First Take, which is a sports show on ESPN, where Stephen A. Smith is the leader of First Take, where they talked about her conversation with Brittney Griner's wife and the importance of paying attention to a situation like this. Now, this video is 11 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole interview. I'm just going to play parts of it. But Angela Rye brought up some important points here that I want to talk about. So I'm going to start playing it now. And then what I'll do is I'll give my thoughts on it as we go through. But just before I go on, Christabella said, they say billionaires, multimillionaires have diverse portfolios. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's absolutely true. You have to have a diverse portfolio of residual income, right? Things that are making you money without you doing any work. There's no person in the world that can make $1 billion off of just one thing. It's very, well, I can't say there's no one person. There are some people who do that, but it's very few and far between. Most people have large portfolios, lots of time with real estate assets, and other times it's with other investments. And sometimes it might be the company that you're the CEO of just happens to have that kind of market valuation, right? Now, to be clear, a billionaire is not always a person who has $1 billion in cash. It just means that if they sold all their businesses today at what those businesses are currently worth, that would be how much cash they would receive. Generally, they have less than a fraction of that as in terms of the amount of cash they have in their pockets, right? So I just want to be clear on that. So for instance, you know, someone like Elon Musk, they say is worth $200 billion or whatever the number is. He doesn't even have $1 billion in cash right now, right? He has less than that in cash. He probably has less than 500 million in cash. So it's based on how much his businesses are worth, not how much he has in cash. I think it's important to know, just so people know. There are certain companies that generate more returns cash-wise, but in general, most people have a very small fraction of what they're worth. Okay, so let's really quickly just watch some of this video to see what's going on here. And there's a lot of things going on as part of this discussion, which I think is interesting. And so I want to call them out now, so you guys can think about these topics and give me your thoughts as you're hearing about them. Number one, Brittney Griner was playing basketball in Russia because she makes a lot more money playing basketball in Russia than she does in the WNBA in the United States. And so there's a lot of conversation around pay equity or pay inequity, and in terms of why a lot of these women's basketball players go overseas to play basketball. So I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts. I have some specific thoughts on this, and they may not be controversial, but they may be a little different from what you might hear some people on TV say, because I think it needs to be more nuanced. But there's a conversation here for sure to be had around pay inequity and the gender gap in terms of athletics. So we'll talk about that. But first, let's get into a little bit of what the conversation has been and what's going on with Brittney now. And this was about 9 days ago. So it's a little over a week ago. I wanted to talk about it last week, but again, I wasn't able to access the internet last week. So let's just get into this, and I won't watch the whole thing, but I'll join in and add some color. All right, let's go.
Angela Rye joining us now. And Angela, I'm happy this was the second time that I saw this, because the first time on SportsCenter last night, I was definitely getting misty-eyed. And just kudos to you for doing this interview in the first place. We all know what it's like to miss someone we love, but it's a whole nother level when you fear for their life, their safety, if you'll ever see them again. And then the whole issue of, like you said, being a political pawn and wrongfully detained. Here's where I want to start with, because you asked so many good questions. But specifically, what more can the U.S. government do to get her back?
Well, a couple of things, Molly, and thank you so much for your feedback on the interview. The first thing is there just needs to be a conversation. Secretary Blinken talked to Sherelle. He let her know that he's standing with her and he's going to do everything he can, that this is a top priority for the State Department. But the rubber has to meet the road, and that means that there needs to be some real progress in getting Brittney back home. One thing that Trevor Reed's mother said to Sherelle and has said publicly is that Trevor Reed would not have come back home, would not have been released if their family had not met with President Biden. As a result, that has become a top priority for Sherelle.
Angela, great job. Obviously, great job. Really proud of you on this. But I got to ask you, How wise do you believe it is to talk about this? I know that we all want to bring attention to it, but
so this is interesting, right? So here's why Stephen A is asking this, right? So the idea of talking about this, considering she's being used as a political pawn, right? And there's been a lot of people giving advice to people like Stephen A. Smith and NBA players and coaches and things like that to not speak up about it because the relationship between the United States and Russia is so it's not in a good place right now. I'm trying to think of the word to describe it, but it's not in a good place, right? Obviously, with Russia invading the Ukraine and them taking Brittney into custody right before they invaded the Ukraine, it feels like it's part of a political ploy, right? And so what has been told to many people in sports media is to not talk about it because they don't want to add flame to the fire. I think the problem is, because they don't talk about it, nobody really knows about the situation and what it really means, right? To be a professional athlete from the United States being detained, according to her family and according to her, unlawfully. And the United States has even come out and said that she's been detained unlawfully, right? So I don't know how they've determined this, but the United States government has already said that she's been detained unlawfully. So for some reason, they've done whatever they've done to do their research, and they do believe that she did not have vape cartridges in her luggage, in her carry-on or whatever. So if they believe that she's been detained unlawfully, then the United States should be working to get her back. But it seems as though they are not. And so this is why this is being brought to attention, because there's a lot of questions as to why they haven't done more to try to bring her back. So let's go on. Let's just, because Stephen A is asking this question, so I want to hear what Angela Rye says in response to Stephen A. Smith.
we're talking about Putin and Russia. Has anybody thought about it, including Sherelle, talking about this and what kind of potential impact that could have? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just curious, is anybody worried about that at all?
Yeah, there was worry about that for a long time. As you know, it has now been 98 days since Brittney was detained. What we also have to understand is on May 13th, Brittney Griner had a court date. It was her pretrial court date. And at that time, her pretrial detention was extended. Shortly before that, April 28th, Trevor Reed was released. This is the former Marine who was in Russia for more than 3 years. Once Trevor Reed was released, the United States government, via the State Department, changed Brittney Griner's classification from detained to wrongfully detained. At that point, Hostage Affairs gets involved, right? Former UN Ambassador Bill Richardson is enrolled in the process to try to get her back home. And that is when the public narrative shifted and it became okay to not only talk about that, but to advocate.
Okay, so that makes sense, right? So, and it was not illegally, it was wrongfully detained, right? So, because before, I think if you remember when we talked about this on the live, I had mentioned that, like, I don't know, you don't go to another country with vape cartridges like Russia. You know, if that's what you did, then I don't know what to tell you. You know, that's just not what you do, right? Like, you just don't do that. That's not a smart move. But if the United States has determined she was wrongfully detained, then they should be doing something about bringing her back home. And as Angela Rye mentioned, there was a U.S. Marine that was incarcerated in Russia for 3 years and released right before the U.S. or like right around the time that the U.S. changed the status of Brittney Griner's detainment in Russia. So I think all of that is an important context to understand what this situation is and why it's important that if you can, you try to do something about it. There's a petition that you can sign, by the way, which I'm going to put a link to in the notes here, so that if you decide you want to sign this petition, I honestly don't know what signing these petitions do, but it doesn't hurt to sign it if it does help at all to just bring attention to it. Angela Rye is going to call it out, but this has less than 300,000 signatures. I mean, you can get petitions to not have a Black girl play Ariel in the in the new Disney live action movie of what's it, Little Mermaid. You can get millions of signatures there, but you can't get even 1 million signatures, not even 300,000 signatures on a petition to release a wrongfully detained person from custody in Russia. So, okay, so I'm gonna put this in the chat really quickly so you guys can see it. And if you guys want, you can sign it. It's totally up to you, right? It's your choice, whatever. But if you want to sign the petition, I've already signed it. If you want to sign it, you can sign it there. But yeah, so that's one thing that you can do. But let's go back and just listen to more of what she's saying so you get a little bit more of an idea of what's going on.
For Brittney's safe return. So right now, Stephen A., as far as we know, it is more than safe to talk about it. In fact, it's encouraged because it's more likely that we can get her back safely than not if we really start to sound the alarm.
Is a meeting going to take place with her and President Biden, to your knowledge? I'm assuming she's reached out. Is that going to happen?
She has reached out. And Stephen A., the word on the street is, if you make the call, President Biden might talk to her. So I'm going to encourage you.
Then I'll make the call. I'll make the call today. I'll make the call today if that's the case.
Great. This is great. But here's the thing. If you, Stephen A., challenge some of your friends as well to call, there's a number. The White House, you can call the White House and urge them to meet with Cherelle Griner about Brittney Griner's release. That number is 202-456-1111. 202-456-1111. And ask President Biden to sit with Cherelle to hear her story and to help to get Brittney Griner back home.
Angela, I have no clout, but I want to go back to the interview because there are some interesting things that were brought up here. So when Cherelle brought up the point and that Brittney wouldn't have been playing overseas if she was properly compensated and taken care of by the WNBA. So that's a whole separate issue. Mm-hmm. But then you asked an excellent question. Where would this process be if this was someone like a LeBron James or someone like a Steph Curry?
So really quickly, I did want to get into that piece, right? So what she said here, I think is really important. If she was properly compensated by the WNBA. Now, there's two ways to look at this, because one time I've seen this meme where it's Diana Taurasi, who's considered probably the greatest women's basketball player to ever play the game, next to LeBron James, right? Who some people consider the greatest to ever play the game of basketball. Some people say second greatest, some people say top 10, whatever. And their accolades are almost identical. Right. And so what they show then is at the very end is their income, right? What the NBA pays LeBron versus what the WNBA pays Diana Taurasi. Now, why is this important? And why does this keep coming up? Now, I learned a long time ago that you get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace. And to be very clear, right, when it comes to the WNBA, in most cases, the arenas are not full, right? So, and the TV viewership is not as much. And so you don't have as much endorsements and advertisers and things to be able to cover that kind of funding, to be able to pay players in the WNBA nearly as much as you pay players in the NBA. Right? The NBA has a ton of bargaining power because it is a star-driven league, and those numbers are all reflected on stars. I mean, it's very clear. Like when LeBron left the city of Cleveland and moved to Miami for 4 years, there was a business that was built around the Cleveland arena. And once he left, a lot of companies went out of business because they no longer had as many people coming to games and the excitement around being downtown in that area and all of those things. So he literally has a huge impact on the revenue that's generated for an entire league. He and other people, Steph Curry and other people like that. The WNBA is not the same. It doesn't make nearly the kind of money. And so now the question is, should those players get paid more of a percentage of the money that the WNBA makes, even though it's a lot less money? Should they get paid a higher percentage? Maybe that's a different conversation. But in terms of the disparity between pay between WNBA players and NBA players, it's really just based on the fact that WNBA players do not generate the kind of revenue that NBA players do. Now, where I think it is actually unfair is when it comes to the women's national soccer league or national soccer team. That is where I think the pay should be flipped, because nobody cares about men's national soccer in the United States. It's women's national soccer in terms of going to the World Cup and even winning in the World Cup. And in America, the women's soccer team has gone much farther, won more. There's even more names that people know of on the women's side than on the men's side. And in the men's side is even being carried by the women's side. So for sure, the women should be way more compensated than the men do, because nobody cares about the men playing soccer. And so I think, when you have this conversation, it should be a nuanced discussion, and it should be based on where that revenue is generated. That should determine who gets paid. And so in that case, in women's soccer, at least in terms of the national team, though, that team should be compensated far greater than the men's national team for soccer. So I think Molly brought that up, and the pay disparity and all of that. And that's a conversation that happens a lot. And it's an argument that I hear a lot online. But I just wanted to give my two cents on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. If you guys have any thoughts, for sure, put them in the comments. But so that is one of the reasons why I wanted to stop there, because I think it's a conversation that's more nuanced than what you normally hear. And I think people need to have a fair discussion about this, right? It really needs to be more about how much money is this league generating. And if you want to compare this to another league, then you're going to have to do it based on the revenue it generates, because you can't compensate someone for money they're not making for an organization, right? Like, it just really comes down to that. Like, here's a good example of this, right? I've applied to 2 jobs at the same time, right? One company made a profit of $10 million a year. Another company was break even, right? I obviously wanted to be compensated the same at both organizations, but the one organization that was break even could not pay me what I wanted to get paid, versus the company that was $10 million a year in profit could pay me because they had additional profits, made it easy for them to be able to pay me for what I was able to bring to both. I could equally bring them both the same level of work and experience and knowledge, but only one had enough funds to pay me commensurate with what I felt that I could bring to that organization. And then also, I was able to bring them more revenue there as well. And so they were able to even pay me more as I worked at that organization, because I could show that I could generate more revenue for them, right? And so these are things that have to be taken into consideration when we talk about the what is it called? The pay inequity discussion. All right. Let me know what you guys think on that while I press play again. I want to hear what you guys' thoughts, but that's what I think. You let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you guys. There's a bunch of people on Instagram. Well, there's a few people on Instagram. There's a few people on YouTube Live. There's a few people on Facebook. I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about that. I haven't seen any comments so far. It's been a quiet live today. I know I didn't go live last week. Is it because I didn't go live last week? Everybody just stopped showing up? What's up? Let me know what you guys think. This is usually a topic that would get a lot of people talking. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think. All right, let me get back into this.
I want to ask you that question, your opinion on where this would be if it was an NBA superstar rather than WNBA.
I really wrestle with this question a lot, because what I don't want to do is make any of those guys feel like I'm trying to target them, right? There have been a number of folks talking about I'm trying to create a gender divide. That's not it. What I'm really trying to do is demonstrate that there is a gender divide, that because of how Brittney presents this 6'9" Black woman wearing a Black Lives Matter sweatshirt through customs in Russia, who's had no problem traveling there for more than 7 years, now all of a sudden on the other side of this is detained. And to Stephen A's point, a lot of people were obedient, right, to the idea of not talking about Brittney. Do you think we really could have quieted the press? The NBA, if it was one of these players? I don't think so. And so I really wanted to wrestle with that within myself. Like, how would I be paying attention to this if this were different? If this were my sister, if this were my friend, how would I want people to be talking about this? And I think that's how we have to really deal with this. Sure, we would like to believe that if you're a superstar and if you're a regular Joe Blow from around the corner, that you'll be treated the same, and we would all want your return and your release. But I don't believe that's the case. And I think this is a really great point for us to double down, not just on salary disparity, but on treatment of these stars. When you look at Brittney Griner's stats, this is a 7-time NBA All-Star, WNBA champion, Olympic gold medalist twice. Like, come on. Like, yes, I think
she was a superstar since college. Yeah, she was a household name when she was in college. I remember what. Yeah, of course. Stephen A?
Yeah, so I remember watching her in college too. I mean, I watch a lot of basketball. My sister was big into women's basketball, so I pay attention to it. I know what's going on a high level. Like I know who won the WNBA championship last year, right? So Chicago Sky, in case anybody cares. So I do watch basketball. I love basketball, and so yeah, I mean women's basketball too. I pay attention to what's going on, but I will be very clear on this though. Again, there are different elements, and there's a nuanced part of this discussion, right? Yes, if this was an NBA star, people would be thinking differently, but also more people know who the NBA stars are. So when you know who people are and you're fans of them and you want to see them playing and you're not able to see them, of course, there will be more people talking about it. And, you know, look, most people don't know who Brittney Griner is, right? If you ask most Americans and you tell them who Brittney Griner is, they don't know who she is. So there's that. That's one piece of the discussion, I think, that leads to the reason why not a lot of people are talking about it. Also, too, you know, again, the revenue generated is not enough that there are people outraged from the business community who are involved in the WNBA to really want to do something, right? In the NBA, we're talking about billions and billions of dollars that could be lost or could be affected with a player of like a Steph Curry or LeBron's magnitude not being around, right? And so that would, I think, in my mind, and it makes the most sense, that those folks would be more vocal and would be pushing a lot more to have this fixed if in fact that was the case. So I don't think she's wrong about the fact that she's saying that it would be different if it was an NBA star, because I think she's right. I just think that if it was an NBA star, it would be a different circumstance altogether, because there are different people who are invested in NBA stars versus who was invested in the WNBA. Not to say that it's right. I'm just saying the world we live in, that is what it is. Now, so we got Jose Cruz. What's up, Jose Cruz? He just showed up. Shout out to Jose Cruz. Just woke up from a nap. What's good? He says the U.S. officials don't negotiate on behalf of castered personnel, but on the other side, she definitely is not getting the proper amount of press for her status. Yeah, I mean, we say we don't negotiate. Well, I say we. I always say we when I talk about the U.S., even though I haven't been living there for a little while, but I'm still a U.S. citizen. Yeah, that is true to some degree. But it depends on who they are, and it depends on the circumstance. There is sometimes negotiation. I mean, Bo Bergdahl is a good example of someone who was in the hands of the Taliban, if I'm not mistaken, was it Taliban? For 5 years. And they released some people from Guantanamo Bay in a trade-off and money to Afghanistan. Sorry, I'm completely messing it up. But anyway, my point is there are some cases where trade-offs do happen, and I can guarantee if it was LeBron or if it was Steph, trust me, they would be doing something about it, right? I mean, it's just because of her what her notoriety is. And I mean, I get that Angela Rye just rattled off some of her stats, but those stats all might be true, but unfortunately, there's just not enough people in those positions of power that care enough that would do something about it based on who she is, right? It's just that, that's just, unfortunately, those are the facts. And I hate to say it, but that's just true. What Manelik is saying is if she were white, she would have been back in the States. Maybe. I don't know. Like if you think it was like maybe Diana Taurasi or one of these other WNBA stars that are not of color, she'd be back in the States. She might be. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't guarantee that. I would probably more likely to say if it was someone who generates more press. But Diana Taurasi or somebody like that might generate more press because that tends to happen. You know, when you have a large majority of the United States who happen to be outside of, they're not people of color. When something happens to someone who they can see as their potential sister or daughter or aunt or mother, they tend to be more likely to be engaged and involved in trying to fix the thing that is happening. Whereas if it's someone who they don't necessarily relate to so closely, someone like a Brittney Griner, as they mentioned, 6'10", whatever, however tall she is, wearing Black Lives Matter t-shirt, I don't know if everybody in the States feels the same way about someone like her as they might have if she wasn't a person of color. So that might be true. But what if it was an NBA star is the question, and I think they would be doing more. Now, Stephen A. has some thoughts here, but I definitely think if it was an NBA star, there'd definitely be a different circumstance.
Let me say this. I'm going to say something, and then I'll ask the question along those lines, Angela, because I'm not sure I entirely agree with you. I definitely agree with you about, obviously, they need to be paid more. There is no question about that. There is no debate about that. WNBA players are fantastic. They give the fans what they want to see, what they come to expect to see. They deliver the goods, and they're consistently committed. So I got a lot of love. Don't get me started with the Diana Taurasi's, the Sue Birds of the...
Okay, so he's talking about pay really quickly. Just to be clear, I don't think they should be paid as much as NBA players, but maybe they should be paid a higher percentage of what the WNBA generates overall. Maybe there's something there. So there's a difference between being paid more for the revenue that the WNBA generates overall versus paying the same as what you get paid in the NBA, because the WNBA doesn't make as much as the NBA does. So just quickly wanted to put that out there.
The world and others. I love all of them ladies. I'm actually going to a couple of games this summer. Okay, and let me not forget Candace Parker, but I got to say this. When we say that if an NBA player was in that position, I will remind the world we're talking about Vladimir Putin. And we know, we've seen, unfortunately, what this man is capable of. And one could easily reverse that and make the argument that if it was somebody popular, he would dig down even more and do even worse.
Yeah, it's possible, but it doesn't mean that people wouldn't talk about it more, right? Like I think Stephen A.'s point here doesn't really speak to the fact that I think more people would have more to say if it was a NBA star, right? So what he's saying here, I think doesn't really hold water, because I think what he's just saying is like, we should be scared of Vladimir Putin and not talk about it because he could potentially react in a way that is not ideal, but that's the name of his game. That's what he does. He always reacts in ways that are not ideal for the United States. So it really doesn't matter what would be done. Really quickly, Kevin Briggs had something to say, so I want to just put that up on the screen. So I love watching the WNBA. They need to pay these women what they are worth, and so that they don't have to go to Russia and China. What I need to see is the WNBA's revenue, right? What is the revenue that the WNBA makes? And each team, right, is going to have to figure out, based on ownership and how much each team makes, how much they can pay the players, right? I'm sure that they're not paying them as much as they should, but I don't know how much we could say they are worth, because the marketplace determines someone's worth, unfortunately. And so if that's the case, if they're not paying to watch the games on TV, if they're not paying to fill up the arenas, if they're not paying for pay-per-view, or not pay-per-view, but like league passes and all those other things on cable, then the revenue may not be there to come up that much more and pay. So that is why they have to go play elsewhere, because there's a bigger demand for them elsewhere. Also, to be honest with you, especially this Russia team, I'm pretty sure it's just a place for them to park their money, and to get rid of cash, right? And have cash flow outside of the country, right? To me, when I think about things like this, I think that's because I don't know where the revenue is really coming from, to be honest with you. I know that international women's basketball has always been more popular than it had been in the US up until the start of the WNBA and even the first few years of the WNBA. Because most of, if you were a college athlete, a women's college basketball athlete, you would go play in Europe before playing in the WNBA. Any of you who watched Love and Basketball, which was one of my favorite movies when I was in high school. Yes, I said high school. When I was in high school, Love and Basketball came out, Sanaa Lathan, Omar Epps. And if you remember, part of like the movie was that she had to go play after college. She was going to have to go play in Europe, right? If I'm not mistaken, that was part of what came up. But then, you know, she ended up playing in the WNBA. It was a whole thing. But, you know, she played in Europe as part of the end of the movie, right? She was playing in Europe. And that was what would happen until the WNBA, I think around like 1996 came to be. But most of the college women's athletes, the best ones, would go to play in Spain and go to play in Italy. And there were leagues there where they could play. There wasn't a professional women's basketball league in the United States until like 96 or something like that. And so, you know, I think, you know, you have to be clear that it's based on the market, right? Flower Child says, it's unfortunate, but expected in America for a Black woman. You mean, of course, to not try to help her get back. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's tough, but again, I sent a link to, so I sent the phone number 202-456-1111. If you guys feel the need to call the White House to tell them to meet with, you know, Brittney Griner's family to see if they can get her back. I also put a link to the petition that everyone is signing, so you can sign that too if you feel the need. But yeah, I mean, these are things that you can do if you feel so inclined to do it. But I don't want to sound insensitive, because I do think that they should be paid more for the amount of work that they put in. I just also understand the way the marketplace works, and it's really based on how much revenue you generate determines how much they're going to be willing to pay. And so there's that disparity. And so unfortunately, that's the challenge that you have. All right. I played this video long enough. I've gone on long enough. We've gone over an hour, and you guys get the point here. I think I've made my points. You guys have gotten a chance to see where some people stand and what's going on. Angela ends this interview by just explaining that the petition needs to be signed as less than 300,000 signatures, and it just needs to be signed. It's what she talks about is the fact that she feels it's ridiculous that it hasn't reached the certain number of signatures yet. So it's at 249,000 signed so far out of the. So at 300,000, it reaches one of the top, but as you can see, it's still less than 250,000 signatures, right? So, you know, if you guys feel like you want to participate, you can participate here. All right, cool. I had a long night last night. I was up working on content to share with you guys. I was up until 4 a.m. this morning. I went to sleep at 4 o'clock this morning and woke up at 7. So I have plenty of work to do tonight, but I have a ton of interviews coming for you guys. Well, first of all, if there's anything else you guys want to say, feel free to bring it up. But I will say this. In terms of content that I have coming for you guys, I got tours of houses and apartments for sale now. I'm going to take you guys on tours of those. I've interviewed a real estate agent. I've interviewed people from the UK that moved to Ghana. I've interviewed people from the US that have moved to Ghana. And I'm going to share those interviews with you all. I want to start doing more interviews with folks who've decided to move. I have interviews with people who've moved to Sierra Leone. So those are coming. I have entrepreneurs here. I have 2 interviews that I'm doing this week. One with Harry Cotton, Makia. I haven't seen you on the live today, but you know, I'm going to meet up with you on Wednesday. And then I'm also meeting up with Kenya and Masa, who opened up Freetown Chop House, which is a Sierra Leonean restaurant here in Ghana. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to eat lunch. I'm going to have some food, and I'm going to interview them there. And I'm really interested in hearing from them about why they started the restaurant, what the process has been like, all of that. So all these things are coming. Just know that I've been spending a lot of time working to get you guys more content and to ensure that you have content at least 3 to 4 times a week. As of right now, I'm doing YouTube shorts 7 days a week. So every day you're going to get a YouTube short from me. And then 3 days a week, I'll do the live one day, Monday. I'll go live every week. Hopefully I can go live next Monday again. And then either Wednesday, Thursday, or Saturday or Sunday, you will also get a chance to hear from me with another vlog as well. So you'll have 2 vlogs and 1 live every week, and I'll have a live on Mondays. All right, cool. So Flower Childs is just congrating Kenya and Masa. Yeah, it's really awesome. I haven't gotten a chance to see them since I've been back. I just got back last Thursday night, and I've been spending the whole weekend working because the previous weekend I couldn't do anything because I had no internet. So haven't gotten a chance to see them, but you guys will get a chance to see the Freetown Chop House. I'm excited to be able to share it with you guys. Maybe we'll go live while we're there, just randomly in the morning. It'll be really early for those of you in the States, but I want to make sure that I share that content with you guys. All right, so with that, this is going to bring it to an end. I'm exhausted. I got a lot of work to do tonight and got to get up early tomorrow morning. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys think this content was at all interesting, make sure you share it with people that you know. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure everybody hits a thumbs up. Really quickly, before we all go, make sure you guys all hit the like button on this video. So before we go, make sure you go in, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, whether you're on Instagram Live or YouTube Live, hit that thumbs up so that we can make sure that more people get a chance to see this content. I realized that a bunch of people joined the live and jumped off over time, and I didn't see them on Instagram, but shout out to you guys for all joining. I appreciate it. Who's on the live right now? There's a couple people on there now still. All right, cool. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys next week on live, and be on the lookout this week for more videos. All right. See you soon.